All right, welcome everybody to the latest addition to our workshop series. On this one, it's subluxated logic. Ironically, I've gotten a lot of questions about what the workshop is about because so many people don't know what subluxated means. Does anybody in here know what subluxated means? Okay, subluxated means, it comes from the word subluxation, and that's terrible. Being in a chiropractor's office, we have failed you guys if you don't know what the word subluxation is. So subluxation is a term that is used in chiropractic mainly, although it's now showing up more and more in medicine. They're finding uses for it. But, we see it in MRI reports and things now. But subluxation means less than a dislocation. Okay, so basically the idea is this, you can have a shoulder that's either in socket or you can have it completely removed from the socket. That's called a dislocation, correct? Okay, but what about the gray area in between where something's not right and then pop and it goes back into place? It wasn't dislocated. I mean, it wasn't hanging out of the joint, but it wasn't sitting correctly. That's a subluxation. And that's the same thing that you guys get reset every single time that you're in for an adjustment, is that, the pops and bone movements that you feel, that's those subluxations being reset back into their normal state, normal position, okay? So that being said, what does subluxated logic mean, okay? Logic obviously is rationality and such. So subluxated logic is the things that chiropractors hear and why they're a little disjointed, okay? So this is somewhat of a tongue-in-cheek workshop of the things that we hear you guys say that drive us nuts, right? As chiropractors, we hear the same things tend to be over and over again. I've been in practice for 17 years. Dr. Tiffany has been in practice for a year. Dr. Jordan for 2 years. So these are just things that I got their input. Hey, am I missing anything that you guys hear too? Some of these are new, some of these are old, that I've been hearing for literally 17 years. Some of them are just in the last year. Some of them may offend some people. Hopefully not. It's just we're pointing out to you a different philosophy. That's just the bottom line, okay? It's just a different way of looking at things, and hopefully you'll see the connection. All right, so first one, an adjustment won't help. Who has ever heard that one before? You tell them, obviously this is every time that you guys tell somebody, you need to go and see my chiropractor, right? And they say, oh, I don't know, a chiropractor won't help, an adjustment won't help, I've got this, I've got that. And they want to tell you their medical history, but they want to also tell you that, oh, well, what you're telling me isn't going to help. It's not going to make a difference, okay? The reality is the only time an adjustment will cease to do anything for you is when your nervous system has ceased to do anything. Okay, what does that mean? You're dead. Yeah, because the reality is every single time that you get adjusted, is it just about popping a bone back into place? No. What a chiropractor really does is we're basically like a natural neurologist. We reset the nervous system back into place. We make sure that there is no interference in the nervous system so that your body can heal and repair the way that it's supposed to. So the only time an adjustment is not going to help you is when your nervous system is no longer active, right? Otherwise, I don't care where you are in your life, in your existence, in your sickness, whatever, an adjustment is going to help because you're taking pressure off the nervous system. You're bringing everything back into alignment so that the operation is more operational. Okay, so it really doesn't matter what the problem is. The problem is that we have been trained in a medical system that places a problem with a treatment. Right? Chiropractic is not a treatment. That's the biggest thing. Chiropractic really, honestly, is a philosophy. Okay, it's a set of principles that basically the healthcare system works within. Okay, this is why with our staff right now we're going through the 33 chiropractic principles, so that they understand what things like universal intelligence and innate intelligence and all these things are. All this really interesting stuff. I'm sure she's told you all about it, right? Already? We're only on 3. Okay, next one. I have a bulging disc, right? I hear this all the time, in new patient exams and such. People will say, I have a bulging disc. And I say, well, when was that diagnosed? Oh, 7 years ago. And I'm like, 7 years ago? Okay, the problem is if you twisted an ankle 10 years ago, do you still tell everyone that you have a twisted ankle? No. But there's something about a bulging disc where people have the assumption that they never heal. It's quite funny to us. You know, just because an orthopedic told someone 5 years ago, 10 years ago that they had a bulging disc, it doesn't mean you still have it. Those things heal over time, no different than when you twist an ankle. I mean, if you broke a bone 15 years ago, would you tell people, oh, I have a broken bone? I mean, you might have evidence that you broke a bone, but I guarantee you, or at least I hope, that bone is not still broken. Okay? So this is just one of those funny things that we hear that really doesn't make any sense at all. Okay? It's just a muscle. Who's heard that one? Probably everybody, right? Oh, you know, oh God, I don't know, my back hurts. This is the one that you run into someone in the grocery store. And you're like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. How you doing? I mean, I'm good, other than, you know, my back hurts, but I mean, it's just a muscle. You're like, yeah, okay. Muscles are dependent on electrical stimulus in order to contract. What does that tell you? It still goes back to the nervous system. A muscle does not just contract on its own. You have to have a stimulus to tell it to contract. Now that stimulus could be a taser, right? You get tased, your muscles contract, you hit the ground, right? That's how that works. But the normal electrical stimulus is your nervous system. So if a muscle is in spasm, if it's contracting, it's because the nerve is telling it to. Now the question becomes, why is that nerve telling that muscle to spasm? And the answer is always because it's trying to protect something. It's trying to change something. It's protecting you from further injury. So until you fix the underlying thing that's causing that signal to tell the muscle to spasm, it's going to stay locked up until it perceives that there's no longer a danger. Now that might mean because now your spine is distorted, you know, to accommodate for that problem, and now you're, you know, just going to be somewhat like this for the rest of your life, right? But the idea is if we can fix those things when they're early set in, then we don't have ongoing problems. Okay, most people are in a chiropractor's office because they never fixed the things when they were small, and they waited for those to distort their posture to where now they're big problems. Make sense? Okay. I can't walk, run, etc. because I have bad knees. I'm sorry. Right? Feeling a little pointed here. It's not just you. I hear this all the time. You know, I can't do this, I can't do that because I have, and it's not just bad knees, right? It's not just bad knees. I have a bad back. I have a sore neck. I'm, you know, 30 pounds overweight. You know, it can be all of these different things. I'm tired. My thyroid doesn't work. My husband doesn't like me. I mean, it can be all of these different things. But the problem is this statement operates under the assumption that the human body has no ability to heal or respond to external stimuli. What does that mean in layman's terms? It has a power to heal itself. But what would that response to external stimuli mean? It's kind of getting off and get going, right? That's what that means. It's the body has the ability, if we push it to do something, the body responds in miraculous ways. One of the stories that I often tell people that they, you know, you might have heard this one before if you've given me this rationale before, is I had a good colleague at one time, Dr. Ben Lerner. He had bad knees from college. He wrestled, and so his knees were shot, and they told him that he was going to have knee replacements by the time he was 40, 50 years old. And so, you know, his knees were, you know, obviously pretty bad, you know, by the time he was 40 or something like that. But he said, you know what, this doesn't fit my philosophy. I'm going to start running. And so he started running. And he kept going just like Forrest. He kept going and kept going and kept going. And he got to the point where he was running triathlons and Ironmans, all the real, and not just marathons, Ironman competitions and such, with bad knees. But the reality is his body responded to the external stimulus. And here's the cool thing. If you think about the way that a knee works, okay, it's a pivot joint. Okay, you rub something long enough that, let's say it's gnarled and gritty, but you rub it enough, what happens? You ever use sandpaper? Yeah, it smooths it out over time. So a lot of these knee problems, they become lubricated on their own and they will tend to fix themselves. But as long as we're buying chairs that help us get up out of seats, we're not really relying on those mechanisms. Okay? Make sense? Yes. Okay. Next one. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. This one's funny. You know, we get this one a lot. But what's your definition of broke? That's really what the question here is, because, you know, most time people say, oh, you know, I'm good. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, somewhat in that kind of accent too. You know, you get that one at the flea market and such. And the reality is they don't know what broke is. They don't know what dysfunctional is. They don't know what their spine even looks like. They've never looked. They have no idea. What they're really saying is, well, I'm not suffering indescribable pain yet, therefore I'm going to wait until I can't function and then I'll do something about it. How smart is that logic? Not good, right? So we should be dealing with things before they get to the point where we're making faces like that, right? Next one here, it's too expensive. This one's really easy. I mean, really, really easy. What exactly would the medical alternative cost? Crazy. I just over Thanksgiving break, I had someone tell me they went in for a procedure and the facility fee was something like $19,000 for one day. That's just the room fee. That's it. You know, so the difference is, of course, insurance pays for it. Well, who pays the insurance? Ultimately, the person does, right? We don't ever, nobody gets anything for free. Nobody. Okay, even if you're on Medicare, you paid for that your entire life, you know, and everybody else pays for that out of their paychecks right now so that we can go and do these things and everything. Someone's paying the bill. The reality is that insurance is nothing but basically, you know, just a scheme to take out the, you know, to put in a middleman. Okay, so that way the doctor can go into the room and blah, 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 tell you what you need to do and everything and not think about the money. The insurance company steps in and deals with the money and gets the extravagant fees. You know, the doctor doesn't ever have to say anything about it. Think how different it would be if we went back to the old days of doctors having to describe what treatments they were, therapies that they were going to have, what surgeries they were going to do, etc., and go through the financials the way that chiropractors do. Imagine if that actually was the case. How many people would be like, wait, I'm sorry, $60,000? I don't have $60,000. You know, I will deal with this knee a little bit longer, like maybe forever, right? You know, we would, but more importantly than that, we would actually think about things from a preventative standpoint. You know, we think, okay, well, I don't ever want that to happen, therefore I'm going to take care of myself better. So this middleman stuff, it really makes things awful. But that is the reality. If we don't take care of small problems, then they become big problems, and those big problems become more expensive over time. It's kind of like neglecting, you know, that your roof is leaking, you know, until everything inside is flooded. All right, next one here. I'll try an adjustment, but if it doesn't work, I'm not coming back. Is that why you stopped exercising too? You know, I didn't see an immediate drop of 10 pounds. I didn't see, you know, I didn't get a six-pack, you know, after that one exercise, so I'm just not going to do it anymore. The reality is this is just an excuse. You know, it's a way of saying, well, you know, I want the microwave popcorn economy. I want everything to happen immediately. And if I don't see the results immediately, well, then it didn't happen. They've got the philosophy completely wrong. And with those, you know, with this type who say these things, it's very difficult to work with them, you know, because you kind of have to just be like, well, look, you know, it ain't going to happen overnight. I don't have an easy answer for you. In fact, there is no easy answer. You just have to stick it out. And if you don't, well, the results are on you. You know, it's not on us. So, but we do hear it. It's one of these funny things. Once you see a chiropractor, you always have to see a chiropractor. Who's heard that one, right? Yeah, yeah. There's actually a really funny joke. It's one of my favorites. How many chiropractors does it take to screw in a light bulb? Only one. But it takes them 3 times a week for the first 3 months and then once a week for the rest of your life, right? So this is one of those things where, you know, once you've experienced air conditioning, can you not go without it? I mean, you can. I mean, everybody in here has probably had air conditioning in their car. You know what a summer in Mobile is like. Do you have the ability to go out right now and buy a car that doesn't have air conditioning, or to reach down and turn the air conditioning off on your car? Of course you do. But why would you want to? That's really the big deal, is why would you want to? So we don't really meet too many people that are like, oh, well, I don't want to see a chiropractor the rest of my life. I don't want to continue chiropractic. There's a few, but the vast majority of people love it. They love getting adjusted, but they don't continue because of money, or because of time, or because of money, or because of money, right? Those are the things that are really the big the pulls for people is, you know, they just get off track, or they want to go on vacation, or Christmas is coming, right? Ironically, right now, you know, all those things. But, you know, you can definitely go without a chiropractor. It's not that once you get adjusted, you know, everything is ruined and your spine is going to fall apart like, you know, like cheese curds. You know, it's just one of those things. Most people that have seen a chiropractor, they're going to continue, or they're going to want to. All right. Oh no, I'm not letting anyone touch my neck. Yeah, we usually these are, you know, people that have had a spinal fusion surgery, right? So they'll have a spinal fusion in their neck or in their lower back. It really doesn't matter where it is. I mean, it's spine's a spine, but it's the idea is, oh my gosh, I don't want you to touch my neck. I don't want you to, you know, do anything with that. But not necessarily. It's a lot of times too, it's people that are just nervous. You know, they're just scared of having their neck adjusted, like, you know, it's going to break or something. You know, one too many kung fu movies. But if you've got a significant problem in the neck, you've got, you know, radiating pain going down your arm, you've got massive migraine headaches, you know, whatever it is, to us, you see the irony in that statement. Oh no, I don't want you to touch my neck. So you would rather have surgery on your disc. You would rather have them go and actually physically cut everything open and go and screw holes into your bones and then sew you up and not have movement the rest of your life. You'd rather stay on painkillers and narcotics that are going to torch your liver for the rest of your life or destroy your kidneys. Like, these are the alternatives, you know, but people still choose to do these things because they're worried about you touching their neck. You know, when the reality is, you turn your head and look over your shoulder, you're actually turning your head more than an adjustment, as you guys know. I mean, that's not any surprise to any of us. So it's just really a kind of a silly thing that you see is more lodged in the head than it is in the neck. You know, this is just a thought, a perception. Who knows where they got it or why they have it? Okay, it didn't pop. Ugh. This one's funny. An audible pop or crack no more indicates the occurrence or effectiveness of an adjustment than hearing the sound of food dropping into your stomach. Right? You don't know that you ate or cease to be hungry because you heard the food or drink go splash, do you? I mean, you went through the act, you know you just fed yourself. That's just how it works. You go through the act of moving and adjusting. It's just because you feel a pop doesn't mean anything. It means very little. In fact, the actual popping noise is, by most people's understanding at this point, is kind of like pulling a suction cup off of a glass, right? So a piece of glass. So it's not that you're letting air out of the joint per se. It's that you're actually releasing a suction and allowing air, oxygen into the joint space. Okay, And that's what causes endorphin release and everything else. But just because it doesn't make that big pop, it doesn't need to. I mean, if you've got tight joints, if you've got, there's so many different factors, you can't even go into all of it. But one story I had many, many years ago, I had a lady that she had a really bad scoliosis. And this was kind of my learning moment when I was a young chiropractor, because, first time she laid down on the table, her x-ray is just crazy. I mean, she had a really bad scoliosis, 40-something degrees, like 47 degrees. And first time adjuster, nothing popped, right? And I'm like, okay, she's really tight. Next adjustment, nothing popped, right? Third adjustment, fourth adjustment, fifth adjustment, and it just kept on going. No actual pops, but the patient's telling me she's feeling better. She's feeling looser. We get all the way to her re-x-rays. I think it was at a year, that she had been, coming in once a week for a year. And her scoliosis dropped into the 30s with never a pop. Okay, so how many times do you think I question the effectiveness of a pop or not after that? Gone, right? That was no longer an issue with me. But that's a really big one, especially for chiropractors coming out of school. They feel like they have to feel the pop or else nothing happened. And many veterans seem to think the same way, because they will drop on you so hard that they will knock the breath out of you. They'll break the table underneath you. You might feel pops. It's actually your ribs fracturing. I've had some really bad adjustments by just making it, forcing the pop. It's not necessary. You can overdo it. Okay? I can't sleep on my back. Don't you guys love this guy? You know who that is, right? Right? I interrupt the commercial right now. No, you don't. It's your own commercial. You can't interrupt your own commercial. It cracks me up. Every time he says that, we yell at the TV. I can't sleep on my back. Besides a massive, massive pillow industry selling you products that you don't need, the primary reason you can't sleep on your back is because you just won't. There's no way to get around it. It's just convincing people to sleep on their backs. It's funny, we have this conversation literally every single week. Every single time that we go through a new care plan with someone, they say the same things. You're like, okay, we give you a 4x5-inch memory foam neck roll that goes on your neck, and we retrain all of our patients to sleep on their back. Oh, no, I don't sleep on my back. I'm a side sleeper. Yeah, we know that. You're not telling us anything new. The reason you're a side sleeper is because of the stupid pillow that you're on. This is why we give you a neck roll, so that you can sleep the way that you're supposed to. Oh, I just can't. Well, let's try. Okay, and then we get to the first re-x-ray, and so how's it going on your neck roll? Oh, I tried it a couple of times, and it just didn't work. But man, my neck is still killing. It's like, so it's kind of self-defeating. But we've got to realize that it's just because we're not trying, that we can't sleep that way. Once you just get rid of the pillow, you get it off the bed, the transition is really pretty simple. All right? Bye, Mike. All right, I don't have time to do therapies. I love this little one. No thanks, we're too busy. We'll keep using our square wheels. How will your time be affected as your condition continues to degrade over the years? Because guess what the number one problem we have as a corrective chiropractic clinic is? Yeah. I mean, you would think it would be like people leaving their house, taking the time to drive to the clinic, standing here, doing all the therapies for an hour, getting back in their car, driving home, getting home late, whatever, but taking 2 hours out of their day. You'd think that would be the difficult thing, not the doing the 15 minutes of therapies at home, or, taking the 30 seconds to put on their posture guardian and then just wear it while they do their things at home. You'd think that would be the easy part. What's the difference? I think it's really simple. The difference is we got someone watching us, right? It's whether we have accountability or not. It's coming here, you miss an appointment, or you're late, you get a call, you get a text, whatever it is. But at home, you're like, yep, I mean, it's literally a thought, and then that's it. We're on to the next thing. And then, sure enough, the stuff ends up in a closet so that we don't have to see it at all, because then we don't feel guilty, right? For the first few weeks, it kind of sits there on the desk. We feel guilty every time we look at it, so we put it away so we don't feel guilty anymore. So, but the reality is, the therapies is what makes the corrections. I mean, the adjustment is just getting everything working again and moving in the right direction. But without doing the retraining to change your posture, it's not going to change, because it is a very static, it is a very static, dynamic, but intelligent function going on. I mean, your body is keeping you in a posture because it's been trained into that posture by whatever you've done and whatever injuries you've had and everything else up until that point. So it takes a lot of therapy to retrain it into something else. All right, I can't get off of my medication. You can't get off, or you won't change what got you on it. Right? This is kind of a tough one, and this is kind of a touchy issue too, because you talk to someone that, for example, is on antidepressant medication or anxiety medication, they can get very edgy with you if you're like, so do you, I always ask a question on first visit, do you have an exit strategy? If they say that they're on a especially a mind-altering medication, do you have an exit strategy? You're on an antidepressant for the last 6 years for something that happened, in the past, but is there a point where you are able to deal with that problem a little bit more? Or, I mean, if you're still needing the medication, then that would imply what? The actual problem isn't being dealt with. So do you have an exit strategy? And I mean, that can be a very difficult and uncomfortable conversation. So that's very quickly gauged in that question with people. Do you have an exit strategy? Their answer, it depends on what I'm going to say past that, because if they look at me and say, oh no, I need it, next. We just go on to the next point. They're not ready yet, right? It's here. But if they say, oh yeah, I'd love to get off of it, but I've been on it for the last 6 years, and every time I get off of it, I feel like hell. At that point, I can tell them, well, guess what? That's because they designed the medication to make you feel like hell if you try to get off of it. So let me tell you how to not feel like hell while you get off of it, right? Then we can talk. So, but a lot of people have this idea that they will literally die if they don't keep their medication, if they stop taking it. It's wild. A lot of times that's with medications that don't actually do anything for them. For example, cholesterol medication in women does nothing in the research, yet their doctor is telling them that they're going to have a stroke or heart attack if they don't take the medication, which is a lie according to the research. Okay? It's too expensive to eat healthy. Yes, those are bacon-covered donuts. So how expensive is it to live sick? If it's too expensive to eat healthy, how expensive is it to live sick? We all know people like that that spend their entire life going to doctors. I mean, it's very sad. When you're retired, literally that's all you do is just go to doctors to mitigate sickness, actual sickness. I mean, that's different from, coming for like wellness care and stuff. I've got patients that, 90 years old and over the years, and they go to their doctor, and the doctor is like, well, how you doing? They're like, well, fine, as long as I keep seeing my wellness doctor, I'm okay. Okay, well, keep doing what you're doing, bye. They don't really want to spend too much time talking to those people. But it's very expensive to live sick, when you're dealing with all these illnesses and all these costs. So you just see this as a very subluxated logic here. It doesn't make any sense. It's just an excuse that we haven't really thought through. Okay? My doctor told me. How many of your doctors have told you something that seems to be antithetical to chiropractic? Probably, right? Your doctor has told you to do this or do that, or the worst, don't see a chiropractor. You can't see a chiropractor. You can, by any means. Well, do you honestly believe that most doctors have more sense than you or I? That sounds like a really bad, jab there, and it is. Because the reality is we went to school with lots of doctors. And, I hate to say, a lot of them weren't too brilliant either. I mean, here's the reality. You guys have to look back at the way that the medical system is, or the educational system as a whole is oriented. Okay, how do you get into med school? By getting straight A's. What makes a straight A student? Is it logical and critical thinking and problem solving? No. What is it? Memorization and regurgitation. Now think about this, guys. Okay, this was not set up by accident. You've got a medical monopoly that runs the healthcare of the entire planet. They have endless amounts of money. And they say, okay, well, who do we want to work for us? We want people that are going to challenge everything that we say or be able to think through the problems? No. Their answer would be very short and sweet. We want people that are going to do what we tell them to do without thinking. We tell you this equals that, and you do it. That's called memorization and regurgitation. So the entire industry, the whole educational system is set up that way. You regurgitate information, you get straight A's, and yet you can't pick up a hammer and put a nail through a board, or you can't air up your tires, or you overpay someone at every turn because you have plenty of money but not enough sense to realize that you're getting ripped off. Like this is reality. I mean, I hate it. There are good doctors, there are very smart doctors, but there's a lot that are not. And we hear things that would blow your mind, that just make no sense and make you nothing but angry. I'm sure you guys have too. Okay, my doctor said I can't see a chiropractor specifically. Did they tell you not to get into a car? If they told you not to see a chiropractor because they're worried about your spine, how is it that they could not tell you don't get in a car? Because surely if a chiropractor turning your head is some kind of danger and risk to you, then getting in a car accident would absolutely kill you. I mean, if you've got a fusion in your neck and they're like, oh, you've got a plate in there, you can't ever be adjusted again. I mean, sure enough, if you get in a car accident, your neck is going to snap and your head is going to go flying off, right? But why did they not say that? And I'll bet you it's because they didn't think through it that way either. They don't have any idea, really, of what an adjustment even looks like. They haven't interviewed your chiropractor. They haven't asked what your technique is. I mean, how do they know the chiropractor that you chose isn't doing gang sign technique? Network technique, right? Where they stand over you and they just make puppeteer motions, but don't actually even touch you. How do they know? Is that really going to hurt you? Is, doing toughness technique going to hurt you? Is not, I mean, a lot of chiropractors, they only adjust one part, right? If you're going in for headaches, but you have a fusion in your lower back, why can't you see a chiropractor? I mean, that chiropractor's not even going to touch your lower back. So a lot of this is just simply they, for whatever reason, don't like chiropractors. And it's probably just because at some point in time they heard or they were told, don't send your patients to a chiropractor because they'll kill them. And because chiropractors are rabid dogs and all these things that used to be said, before they got sued back in the 1980s, mid-80s, Wilk versus AMA, they were finally told, cut it out, you can't do it. That's defamation. You guys have no grounds, no basis to do it, so stop doing it. But they've tried over and over again to squash chiropractors, and this is the modern impact of that today is a doctor saying don't see a chiropractor. They can't tell you that, and there's no basis for it, right? So it just doesn't make any sense anyways, the entire statement. Okay, I'm immune compromised, so I have to wear a mask, okay? This one is really more concerning than anything, okay, because we have been given a very, very distorted view of immunity and how it's affected over the last couple of years. Incredibly distorted view. Okay, we've been told that basically you get sick because someone coughs or sneezes, or because simply it doesn't even take that. All it takes is someone breathing a completely normal function, breathing, and they walk past you, and you're going to get sick and die of a virus. Okay, a virus which by definition is actually a cold virus. You look on Wikipedia, coronaviruses are not new. This is just a variant. but it's a cold virus. Okay, that's why you've heard other people say it's a cold virus. They're not lying. Okay, it's just a different variant. But that doesn't even matter if it's a variant. See, the reality is your immune system is designed to deal with new germs and new bugs and stuff. It's designed to do that. So if you never get exposed to new challenges, how does your immune system stay active? Have you ever heard of the movie or seen the movie The Boy in the Bubble? You might get the concept. It's way back. I mean, it's like, I don't even remember. I mean, when I was a kid, I remember seeing something about the movie. But the concept is that, and it's a true story, you've got these kids that are immune compromised or whatever. They decide that they are immune compromised, and so they put them into a plastic bubble, right? So they can't be exposed to any germs, any outside anything. Well, what happens if you stay in that bubble for so long? What happens to your immune system? It's completely inactivated. So the second you come out of that bubble, you get exposed to anything, you're dead. Okay? Here's the reality. The only way that you stay healthy and not immune compromised is the opposite. It's by being exposed to things on a regular basis. It's the entire opposite of what we're all told. In fact, this pandemic would have been over a long time ago if we had left it alone. If we had just let nature run its course, the numbers are out there, the data's out there. I mean, we were talking about this like just a few months into it. There were epidemiologists that were screaming this, that look, if we want to get over this, the only way to get over it is by having enough healthy people be exposed that they become quickly immune to it, and then it eventually, that explosive immunity to it becomes a natural shield against it, because now there's not enough sick people to transmit it back and forth. But when we're constantly running away from it and trying to hide from it, it actually slows down and continues to pepper the population with illness. And so you drag the whole thing out and you extend it longer and longer. And you also, which is scary, is give it time to mutate. Now you let it naturally select or artificially select by immunizing and things, that it begins to, it has time to transform and find ways to get around the population as it's gaining its immunity. It's just a disaster, okay? We only get healthy through exposure. That's it. If we don't get exposed, we quickly lose our immunity in many ways, okay? So this is just incredibly disturbing, because, even if you're immune compromised for some reason or another, I'm not saying, somebody that is on chemotherapy that is completely shot out their immune system should ditch their mask and start, having people cough in their face. That's not what I'm saying. You understand that? I don't think they should be doing chemotherapy in the first place, because tanking the immune system is not a good idea. But what I'm saying is, if you're a generally healthy person, then this is the last thing that you should be worried about. In fact, you should be doing things to build your immunity, and part of that is just living, breathing. You don't disinfect every piece of food that goes into your mouth. So if we're worried about what goes into our stomach, we are not worried about what goes into our stomach. Why are we worried about what we're breathing in? They're just different entry points. But really, you've got more problems eating stuff. There's vastly more GI infections and such than there are respiratory infections. It's just how we deal with it, right? So, very concerning. Okay, I wear a mask to protect others. Okay, this one operates under many faulty premises. Okay, number one, a mask works to prevent aerosols and viruses. The bottom line is, it doesn't. It doesn't. The science is out there. The best that a mask can do is, especially a cloth mask, okay? Just one of these just basic masks that you see most people wear, that you see kids in the schools picking other people's masks up off the ground and putting them on, trading masks with their friends because they like their fabric better. All of this stuff. The best that a fabric mask can do is block goblets coming out, right? You sneeze and it's gonna trap the big spit blobs and stuff, you know, what's actually gonna make it wet. But anything that is an aerosol, it passes straight through that like if you were to throw sand at a chain link fence. The fibers are so loose that the aerosols and viruses, they pass right through it. It makes no sense whatsoever. The science is crystal clear on this. Even an N95 mask, you don't go, you know, if you work in a virology lab, okay, like where they're actually studying these viruses and stuff, do you see them walking around open air wearing an N95 mask? No. What are they wearing? Completely self-contained environments. They have a shield on with a plastic visor, and they have an oxygen tube coming into their back pocket, right? Because everybody knows that's the only way that you're going to stop viruses from, you know, yourself from being exposed to these things, is a completely separated barrier. You're not going to do it even with an N95 mask. Now, do I wear an N95 mask when I'm working with concrete or sawdust or something like that? Sure. Does it always work? No. In fact, if you're in a building fire, where did I see that? That was sometime a while back, but there was literally a warning on a box or something for an N95 mask that said, no, I remember, it was during the forest fires in California, right? So there were all the forest fires in California, and they actually came out and started telling people, guys, the mask isn't gonna protect you from the smoke. You can't, just because you're wearing a mask doesn't mean you can walk through the smoke. They had people passing out and stuff, trying to, go walk around, yada, yada, with just these masks on, thinking, oh, I'm okay because it protects me from the virus. It must protect me from the smoke, but they're still dropping out. So if it can't protect you from smoke, how's it going to protect you from a virus or from aerosols from people coughing? It's just a normal fact of life. So that's the first one. The second one is even more disturbing. It assumes that you are sick. We've all been told that we might be a silent carrier. What? Like, if you're otherwise healthy, why are you worried about being sick? We all know we've been sick before in the past, and we know what that feels like. And by the time we have enough viral load in our body to feel sick, now, okay, it makes sense. Yes, stay home, quarantine yourself. Don't be around other people. I wouldn't even be around people wearing a mask because I know it doesn't really make much of a difference. But why are we acting like we're sick when we're actually healthy? That doesn't make any sense. It's just because that's what we've been trained over the last couple of years to do and how to operate. But the reality is, you're not sick unless you're sick. Stop believing that you're sick because they're telling you that you're sick. Number 3, not exposing others to any germs ever somehow helps them. This goes back to the last one. If people never get exposed to anything new, their immune system actually goes down. So I think differently and have, through the entire pandemic, right? How many times do you think we've been secondhand exposed to coronavirus? I mean, we never wore a mask. I think I wore a mask, on an airplane because I had to, and I had a patient, I think one time, asked me to wear one in a room, and I did. That was the only time. But never wore a mask here. I mean, most of you guys are patients all the time. How many times did we get sick? I mean, we should be getting sick all the time. I mean, we're always exposed. I mean, I literally have eaten food from people that I know had it. And I've dropped off supplies to people's houses when they were sick, because they didn't have what they needed. So I brought it over to them. But never got sick because we already had it early on, so we built immunity to it, right? But the only way that we continue to tweak that immunity and keep boosting it is, right? It's like their idea of a booster shot, right? Now you got to go and get a booster shot because your immunity was waning, so now we're going to expose you to it so that but that doesn't work with natural immunity? It makes no sense. So these three things, and trust me, there's more to it than this, but just these three things alone should make you think twice about this. Like, why are we, what's the motivation behind this? And the motivation is really just one thing. It's to keep you in a mask. It's to keep it going. It's to keep the perception that this thing is still killing, thousands, tens of thousands of people every day when it's not. So we're still talking about it because we're still seeing it. And they don't want you to get out of the mask until everybody is forced to be vaccinated. We've been saying that early. So, we just, from the beginning, a lot of that was just not playing that game. Not because we're fighting back against any particular thing. It's just, no, we're not playing this game. And no, we're not making anybody play this game. If you want to come in here without a mask, you can. If you're not comfortable with it, you don't have to. If you want to wear one, you can. That's fine. But we, in particular, I'm not playing that game. It's just, it doesn't make any sense to me. All right, your refusal to get vaccinated is a danger to others. See the shirt, hug me, I'm vaccinated. Assuming that any given vaccine works, flu shot, measles, chicken pox, take your pick, it doesn't matter. Any one of them, assuming that they work, your choice to be vaccinated should exclude you from worry, right? Because if you got the coronavirus vaccine, well, then you were told you have immunity to it now. That's why you got the vaccine, right? I mean, that's what we were sold is you take the shot so you have immunity to the virus. So why are you worried about the people that choose not to? They're no danger to you if your vaccine works. To each their own and leave it alone at that. But we're being told that they're a danger because this is, psychologically, this is called scapegoat syndrome, okay? Where all throughout history, this has been used over and over and over again to make a certain sector of the population the scapegoat, that we can put all of our anger and fear and everything else, we can point all of that towards them. And that's the scary part behind this because, at one point in time, it was being Jewish, right? If you were Jewish, you were the scapegoat. And what they do to all of them? They killed them. Down in, I don't remember which African country, it was there were two major tribes in that area. You guys might remember this. It was like the Tutsi or something like that. Yeah, they were the two major groups, populations within this African country. Well, what you don't know, or until you look at the history behind it, that area was actually under control of, I think, the Portuguese. They owned that or had claim to that country for decades. Okay, and they knew that if they were unified, then they would have a hard time maintaining control. So what they do? They pitted them against each other, right? They divided the population, pitted them against themselves, so that there was so much fighting going on here that they couldn't realize that, hey, you know what, we actually should be working together to fight the real guy, the one that started it all from the beginning. And so they mass slaughtered millions of people. This was back in like the 1990s, I think. It wasn't that long ago. Sudan, maybe? I don't remember. And what was the country?
It doesn't say.
Okay. So, well, anyways, yeah, that's what's going on. You can look all this up and Rwanda. Okay, yeah, like the movie Hotel Rwanda. Yeah, so look up the Rwanda massacre, right, and what happened there. It's crazy. But all of that comes back to that idea of the scapegoat, and it's happened all throughout history like this, over and over and over again. And we keep on repeating history, and this is nothing but the same thing. And that's what's scary about it, because you look at the way everybody is going after the vaccinated. I love how it's, everybody says no room for racism, right? I watch soccer, and they've got all the armbands on that are like rainbow armbands and stuff, and they take a knee before the game and everything, and we're like, we have, everybody's taking a knee in solidarity because there is no room for racism. But the unvaccinated are fair game. You notice that? Like you can do anything you want to. You can shame the hell out of the unvaccinated. You can take people's contracts away. You can cut them from the workplace. They are open game. They've made it okay. Even though we're probably at the pinnacle of history of, the racism battle and, and inclusion and everything else. It's just ultra ironic, isn't it? So as they include everybody else, they still have to maintain that scapegoat. So it's like, oh, yep, here's the unvaccinated, go after them. They're the mutual enemy now. Scary stuff. I want him to look like me. I want him not to get made fun of, etc. Have any idea what I'm talking about? Circumcision. This is one that we talked about in my workshop, Raising Healthy Kids from Conception. But we still hear it today. Even though something like 35% of Americans are non-circumcised now. It's dropped to like 60, 65%. In a lot of other countries, they've pretty much done away with it entirely. Like it's no longer happening because they realize there's no medical benefit to it. In fact, it's the complete opposite. There's all kinds of medical trauma. There's all kinds of emotional trauma and developmental problems and all kinds of things attached to it. You want to get the real history behind this stuff, go back and watch that workshop. I'll tell you, it has to do with Kellogg's Frosted Flakes is one of the big connection points. Yeah, go watch it. It's going to blow your mind. It's crazy. It's literally crazy. So, but this doesn't make any sense. The reason why I've got this shop glass dropout mug here is if you were missing a thumb, right? You were missing a finger, would you cut your baby's finger off? I mean, if you're worried about the baby looking like you, why don't you really make it look like you? I mean, if you're missing any other part, would you cut that part off? You see, it doesn't make any sense. And the other part to it, who exactly is it that will see, know, will care about this, considering it's 2021? This is not back 30, 40 years ago when I was in grade school, when you went to camp and all the boys took showers together. Right? That doesn't happen anymore. At least I hope it doesn't. I mean, that kind of stuff doesn't happen anymore. So really, the only ones that should know are, your spouse, significant other, your mother, like your family. So I'm confused. Who is going to make fun of them? It doesn't make any sense. But a lot of this stuff is just deep-seated things that we don't really think about. They become big issues from us and we don't really think about why. So I was actually one of those. When my kids were born, I was dead set that we were going to circumcise. Because I thought it was biblical. I thought we had to do it. And I was like, something doesn't sit right. I don't know. Something isn't, I'm a chiropractor. The power that made the body heals the body. God designed us a particular way for a particular reason. Why is this any different? I mean, I've got an opposable thumb that has a very specific purpose. There's a reason why it's not on the other side. So why is it that we have to naturally just go and carve up genitalia? It didn't make any sense to me. So I started doing the unlikely thing and I started researching. And I have that all in that workshop, all of the research behind it that will blow your mind. Absolutely blow your mind. But even though I did all that research and I changed my mind, I still run into people who they don't even want to watch it. You talk about it, they don't want to watch it because it's almost like it's so deep-seated that they just can't challenge it. And I guess my brain just doesn't, it's not wired like that. I'm wired to challenge everything. I want to know if something isn't sitting right. I don't care if it's a deep-seated belief or not. I'm going to challenge it. Because if I can't challenge it, well, then there's probably something wrong with it. right? And so that's how I've learned a lot in life, just by challenging literally everything that I think. And I even tell my kids, I'm like, you know what? Challenge everything, including what we tell you. Because if you find that we're at fault, if you find that we're distorting something, well, then you deserve to know better because we lied to you, right? That's a hard thing to do with your kids, but it is true. So this is just a very strange one, but go back and watch that workshop, Raising Healthy Kids from Conception, where you could just literally, and I wish I could say you could just go to YouTube and look up Bucknell Circumcision, but you can't because we've been blocked by Google. Google owns YouTube, and of course Google is invested in the coronavirus vaccine, so when they started censoring everything a year and a half ago, we got chopped. So you can't find us by a search. You actually have to physically go to our YouTube channel and then search through there. If you do a generic search for us, you won't find anything of mine on there anymore. Pretty crazy. Yeah, we live in a wild time. All right, last one. If the Lord says it's my time to go. There's a reason I ended on this one, right? I hear this a lot. People that are, I mean, I don't hear it as often, I don't think anymore, but you run into people, usually this would be, a spouse is in getting care and they turn to their spouse and is like, you know what, you really need to come and get checked too. And the spouse, usually a dude, is like, oh, if the Lord says my time to go, then it's my time to go. And I'm like, did the Lord decide what you'd eat today? Did he tell you? Did he make you eat a particular thing? Did he tell you to skip working out today? Because I know you didn't work out. I mean, if you're saying that, you probably didn't do anything today. Did he tell you what to watch on TV? How do you suppose the Lord feels about you knocking a decade off the life he intended for you by your bad decisions? So this logic is just a little bit tilted. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The reality is we have every bit responsibility to take care of our bodies and to take care of what we do to ourselves. So, this depiction obviously is Jesus walking into the temple and, you all know the story. He made a whip, he fashioned a whip and went in there and started turning over tables and causing a ruckus. Why? Yep. So here's the big connection I want you to see. This was in God's house. This was in God's temple. Okay? So Jesus was angry that things were happening in the temple that were not supposed to happen in the temple. That this is a sacred place. It's supposed to be respected and taken care of and operated within certain rules. Where is the temple now? It's us. So what does that mean? That means if we're not taking care of the house, if we're not doing the things that we're supposed to do, if we're not following the rules, you think he's got a whip? He does. And we may not see it right now, but the whip still exists, right? So we should be looking at everything that we do as far as how we live and how we operate and making sure that it's coming from a place of respect. It's coming from a place of, sanctification, if you will, that you look at your body, you are the temple, so I don't care what religion you are. I mean, this is just the Christian view of it or the Jewish view of it, but really all religions kind of follow the same path of, we really are designed to be something special, and so we should be treating ourselves in a special way. And with that, when we negate all of that, we ignore it, we can't expect that God is just gonna okay, he's just gonna take me when it's time, or he's gonna keep me here even though I don't deserve to be. Although you do, we were talking about the chiropractic principles today, like I said, and that was one of our discussions is, isn't it amazing what people can do to themselves and still survive? That people can take 24 different medications. They can drink, 8 beers a day. They can take drugs. They can do all these things to themselves. They can eat McDonald's every day and they still survive. Like, That's mind-numbing when you really think about it, how incredible your body is and what it's able to exist through. Okay, so anybody have any questions then before we go? We kind of ended on the difficult ones there. That was on purpose so that we can quickly leave with our heads down, right? But this is this obviously this workshop was designed to make you think. It's to make you question. It's to make you really go back and reevaluate the things that you've been told, and there's no better time to do it than right now. I mean, after the last 2 years, you guys have been told, completely upside down. I mean, everything, every turn is upside down reality, so by all means right now, we need to be kind of putting the blinders on, not taking them off. We need to put the blinders on and stop paying attention to what is being just mass blown in your face all the time, and just really focus on, okay, what is right and what is true, and what does pure logic alone tell me? And you'll find, your intuition is smarter than the media. All right. If you all have any questions, you can let me know. If there's any comments on Facebook, questions on Facebook, or YouTube, we'll try to answer those as well. Outside of that, y'all have a fantastic night. Thank you for coming.